number of people displaced within their own country is now double the number of refugees globally. This is according to a new report from the Internal Displacement Monitoring Centre. It reveals that many of them are out of reach of aid agencies and living in extreme poverty. Let's look at this a little closer. Currently, there are more than 40 million people who've been forced from their homes as a result of conflict and violence. The report says nearly 9 million people fled last year alone. On top of all that, natural disasters like drought have pushed more than 19 million people from their homes in 2015. Let's get more on with TRT World's Sarah Morice joining me from London. So Sarah, which country has the most number of internally displaced people?
Well, Marlene, the answer to that question is definitely Syria. They've got 6.6 million people who are internally displaced within Syria, and that probably won't come as a surprise to too many people. If you put it into context, 50 families have been displaced every single hour since the conflict started. So there's a humanitarian crisis on an unprecedented scale there. And keep in mind, these people who are internally displaced, their numbers come on top of the number of people who have also fled the country and are now considered refugees. But I think if we have a look at the numbers of internally displaced people around the world in just the last year, then we need to split it into two categories. The first category being those who've been displaced because of things like violence and conflict like Syria, and the other category of people who've been displaced by things like disaster, so floods, drought, typhoons, those sorts of things. And if we focus just now on the conflict side of things, it's actually Yemen that has had the largest number of people in the past year displaced. They came in ahead of Syria, and Iraq came in third on that list. If we move to those displaced by things like flood, like drought, so the disasters, Asia tends to dominate this particular category. India and China suffered a lot of floods and typhoons, and they came in 1 and 2. But Nepal actually came in behind them in number 3, and that, of course, was because of the Nepal earthquake in 2015. I think it's also important to point out there were nearly twice as many people displaced by disaster as displaced by conflict and violence.
OK, Sarah, good of you to join us. Sarah Morice there in London.